On daytime television, there are relationships that develop gradually, almost imperceptibly, until one day you notice that two characters who scarcely shared a scene in the beginning have become each other's most essential sounding board. These relationships are characterized by a gradual and almost imperceptible development. This subtle metamorphosis has been taking place between Daphne Walton and Carter Walton on The Bold and the Beautiful, and the results have culminated in some of the most genuinely riveting drama that the CBS soap opera has produced in recent memory. During the episodes that aired this week, Daphne sought advice from Carter, which was a moment that felt both unexpected and completely unavoidable. Surprising due to the odd nature of the pairing, these are two characters whose orbits have not historically overlapped with a great deal of regularity or intimacy. The logic of this particular discourse is impossible to argue with because, when you trace the threads that have been set painstakingly across recent tales, it is impossible to argue against the logic of this particular conversation. When everything is said and done, Carter Walton is the person who Daphne needs the most at this most critical moment. The show is aware of this fact. Having an understanding of Daphne's position, before the significance of Daphne seeking Carter's counsel can be completely appreciated, it is necessary taking stock of where she finds herself in the current landscape of Forrester Creations and the tangled web of relationships that surrounds it. Daphne has been navigating a situation that is both personal and professional in nature. This is the kind of situation that The Bold and the Beautiful is able to construct with a great deal of skill, layering romantic entanglement with tension in the workplace and loyalty to family until the entire structure becomes almost impossible to handle. In the event that she makes a single mistake, misplaces her confidence, or makes a decision based on her feelings rather than her rational thought process, everything that she has constructed may be subject to changes that she is unable to fully anticipate or control. At this very moment, she does not require sympathy from anyone. It is not hard to find people in her life who are prepared to provide her with that. What she requires is perspective, the type that is straightforward, rooted in reality, and influenced by experience. The kind that cuts through the noise and provides something that is truly helpful. She needs someone who has been in her position, or someone who has been in a position that is sufficiently similar to it, and who is self-aware enough to reflect on that experience in an honest manner rather than simply reinforcing whatever it is that she already wants to do. It just so happens that Carter Walton is an excellent example of someone who meets that description. Why Carter is the appropriate individual? The journey that Carter has taken on The Bold and the Beautiful over the course of the past few years has been one of the more substantial long-form character changes that the program has had. He arrived as a character that was mostly defined by his professional function, which was that of the Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel of Forrester Creations. He was capable, respected, and steady in the sense that he brought stability to the organization. Nevertheless, the narratives that have molded him in the years following then have added a significant amount of depth to that initial image. He has experienced love and loss in ways that have left permanent marks on his body. His complicated history with Quinn, the relationship with Paris that carried its own set of complications, and the ongoing negotiation between his professional responsibilities and his personal desires. All of these things have resulted in the creation of a man who understands, from genuine experience, what it means to want something that causes problems, for one to be pulled in directions that do not completely align with one another, to be forced to make decisions and then to live with the repercussions of those decisions. The fact that he has such a wealth of experience is precisely what makes him an invaluable advisor in the circumstances that Daphne is currently facing. It is not a theory that he is speaking from. He is providing the kind of instruction that is straightforward and uncomplicated, the kind that someone who has never been put through a real test might deliver. He is speaking from a position of understanding that has been earned through a lot of effort, and when it is presented in an honest manner, that sort of wisdom lands differently than any other kind. Another issue to consider is the position he holds in his work life. Carter has a bird's-eye perspective of the internal dynamics of Forrester Creations, which is something that very few characters can equal. He is the chief operating officer and the legal genius of the corporation. Not only does he comprehend the human stakes of the predicament that Daphne is contending with, but he also comprehends the institutional stakes. He has the ability to simultaneously perceive both dimensions, both the human tale and the structural reality. And this dual perspective is just what the situation calls for at this juncture. An analysis of the conversation. What was said and what was not said. It is the awareness that the most powerful dramatic moments are frequently those that leave something unsaid and that trust the spectator to read between the lines that was used in the construction of the scene between Daphne and Carter. This particular restraint is what distinguishes the bold and the beautiful at its best. Rather than coming to Carter with a straightforward inquiry, Daphne brought with her a burden, the kind of burden that has been building up for some time and has finally reached the point where it is too heavy to bear on one's own. Despite the fact that she did not fully express every facet of what she was struggling with, Carter did not prod her for more than she was willing to share. This is a credit to Carter. Wherever she was, he would meet her. The result of the conversation was neither a clean solution nor a command that was easy to understand. Daytime television, when it is operating at its best level, is aware of the fact that genuine advice does not always address issues in a neat manner. Instead, it alters one's viewpoint, brings up new considerations, and leaves the individual who received it with a different relationship to their problem than the one they had when they arrived. This is the offering that Carter made to Daphne. Rather of offering a remedy, Carter offered Daphne a fresh interpretation of the situation, in ways that were precise enough to be helpful without being self-indulgent. His advice drew on his experience in a way that was appropriate. When he discussed the costs associated with particular decisions, he did not speak about them in a general sense, but rather in the specific terms of someone who has personally paid those charges and can recall how they felt. He acknowledged that her circumstance includes facets that he cannot fully understand from the outside, and he was honest about the limitations of what he could tell her. At the same time, he was equally honest about what he could provide her. The scenario was quiet, and the performances were measured, which resulted in it landing with a great deal more weight than a rendition of the same conversation that was louder and more dramatically heightened would have. The insights that this combination provides regarding the present course of the show. It is interesting to note that the decision to bring Daphne and Carter together in this specific manner reveals something about the direction that the bold and the beautiful is heading in the current chapter of the show. The Forresters, the Logans, and the Spencers continue to cycle through various permutations of love, betrayal, and redemption in ways that have kept audiences engaged for nearly 4 decades. The show has always been built on the great romantic triangles and family conflicts that define the genre. These include the Spencers, the Logans, and the Forresters. There is still a clear manifestation of such processes. They serve as the structural basis upon which everything else is built. However, the show has been finding more and more drama in the spaces between those larger story engines. This drama can be found in the more subdued relationships, the unexpected alliances, and the conversations that take place between characters who are not, at this particular moment, in the midst of a romantic crisis. These characters are engaged in the more mundane and possibly more realistic work of advising and supporting each other and occasionally complicating each other's lives. Daphne and Carter are currently residing in one of those spaces at this very moment. In addition, the show is making intelligent use of that space, constructing something that appears to be legitimately earned rather than produced, and establishing its foundation in character logic rather than the necessity of the plot. The acts that were said. In order to provide an accurate explanation for why this plot is succeeding, it is necessary to appreciate the contributions made by the actors who bring these characters to life. A character who could have easily been reduced to a functional duty has instead been evolved into one of the show's most completely formed personalities. Carter Walton has been presented with consistent intelligence and emotional depth. This is impressive because the character could have been reduced to a part that was only functional. Scenes that may otherwise appear expository are given a genuine warmth by the performance, and the character is given a credibility that could be undermined by more theatrical tactics because of the ability to portray inner strife through restraint rather than by exterior exhibition. The character of Daphne, on the other hand, has been portrayed with a level of complexity that makes the situation in which she finds herself actually compelling to observe. It is not accurate to say that she is only a character who is in need of rescuing, at the same time that she is negotiating a challenging circumstance with the full consciousness that she is the one who will ultimately be responsible for making the decision. She is a person who possesses both her intelligence and her agency. Not permission or absolution is what she is looking for from Carter. Rather, she is looking for the truthful perspective of an individual in whom she has developed a mutual trust. The performance articulates all of that with a level of precision that is truly commendable. When they work together, they produce the unique chemistry of mutual respect. This is not the same as romantic tension or rivalry. Rather, it is the more subdued and, in some ways, more long-lasting connection that exists between two individuals who actually see each other more clearly. Where their travels will take them. The question that is currently hanging over the dynamic between Daphne and Carter is of what the program will do from this point forward. Whatever Daphne chooses to do next, it will undoubtedly be influenced by the guidance that Carter has provided, and whatever she chooses will have repercussions that will ripple outward into the greater tale in ways that are not yet entirely obvious. For this reason, the narrative structure of The Bold and the Beautiful is designed in such a way that the little scenes plant seeds that the greater tale would eventually harvest, sometimes in directions that no one predicted. Over the course of this conversation, the friendship between these two characters has been significantly strengthened. Something genuine has been communicated by them, something that extends beyond the just transactional encounters that occur between co-workers who are navigating the same workplace. This kind of link, once it has been created, has a tendency of being significant again in the future, when fresh issues develop and Daphne or Carter require someone who is already familiar with the complete tale. Over the course of nearly 4 decades, the television show The Bold and the Beautiful has been telling stories about the individuals that work at Forrester Creations. When it comes to those storylines, the finest ones have always realized that the most compelling drama takes place not in the boardroom or the bedroom alone, but rather in the quiet spaces in between. These are the spaces where people are honest with each other, vulnerable with each other, and sincerely attempting to assist each other find their path. The fact that Daphne is seeking advice from Carter is an example of one of those calm areas. At the moment, it is among the most enjoyable things that can be seen on daytime television.